Does playing alternating hi-hat 16th grooves, like the one you see me playing right here, cause a tangle of hands where you feel like your hands easily get mixed up, they easily get sloppy, the kick drum's not locked in, and the groove is just never clean and feeling good? Is that you? Is that where you're at with these? I know I've been there, and that's an easy spot to get stuck with this type of groove. And it's frustrating because there are so many songs out there that use this kind of playing. And so if you're not able to do it, your drumming feels very incomplete. And you've got this great big hurdle in front of you of this thing. I've got to be able to play this type of groove so I can play these songs. And until you do that, you're having to modify it and simplify it. And you're not able to play your favorite song like the record. And that's frustrating. What if, though, you could play alternating hi-hat 16th grooves and actually strike the snare exactly when and only when you mean to? What all would you now be able to play? What all songs would now be at your fingertips if you had complete control over these alternating hi-hat 16th grooves? I struggled with this too as a beginner, and starting out I was only able to play very simple versions of this, like, you know, just hitting the snare on 2 and 4, and if I added in, mixed in anything else, like, you know, things like that easily got really sloppy. But then I found this really cool exercise that helped me become much more versatile and creative with this really years later into my playing. But it helped me so much, I think it's going to help you out a lot today too. You know, it's easy to assume that the solution here is to just practice more, and that's what conventional wisdom and logic would tell us. But if we instead employ 2 really specific strategic frameworks for cleaning up this type of groove, you'll make way more progress and you'll feel way more creative in the process. And so what we're doing today is we're diving into 3 steps to more creative and precise alternating hi-hat 16th grooves. And through these 3 steps, we're doing these 3 different things, and we're employing these 2 different types of exercises, these 2 different frameworks. So this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be super step-by-step and nitty-gritty and practical for you. You can follow along. So we'll be getting your hi-hat 16th grooves, your alternating grooves, way more clean and precise and feeling better by the end of today's lesson, so that you're able to play those songs that use that and actually not have to dumb down parts anymore. And that's what we want, and that's that fulfillment and satisfaction we're looking for as a drummer. So this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to hopefully help you out a whole bunch. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you can nail songs and sound awesome with a band and be the drummer that other people want to jam with. And hey, a big part of that is being versatile and being able to play different types of grooves that you might encounter in songs and not just be stuck doing 8th note timekeeping. Maybe there are some songs where you want to be able to do and play like that, but right now you just feel like it's beyond your capability. Well, let's solve this today. 3 steps to more precise and creative alternating 16th grooves. So what we're going to do here, so we've got these 3 steps we're going through, gradually moving toward doing syncopation here with the snare and with the kick, and we're going to do 2 different things within each of these steps. It'll all make sense as we go here. So step number 1, we're going to start off on the snare. Play accented singles on the snare, specifically shifting accents. If you've watched a lot of my lessons, you may have seen or heard me teach this before. The whole concept of accenting the beats with alternating singles like this. So doing like that, accenting the beats, but then shifting those accents across the beat, and then accenting the E's and going. Then the ands. Then the uhs. So I'll play through all of that and give you 2 bars of each. I'm going to keep quarter note time with my left foot just for reference. You don't have to do that, but just watch me do it and then try playing along with me. 3, 4. And then we're back to the beginning, accenting the beats. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're accenting beats, then the E's, ands, uhs. 1, E, and because that's how we subdivide the beat into 16ths. 1, E, and so we accent the 1, the beats, then the E's, then the ands, then the just like that. So we're starting off nice and simple here on the snare. It'll all make sense how we're applying this to the hats. But we want to get comfortable subdividing the beat in our heads and thinking through these different subdivisions. And so part of this is making sure you can also count this and think through it in your head before you actually play it and go 1, E, 2, okay, now the E's, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. Practice counting it and accenting the syllable that we're accenting physically. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. 4, and now practice just like singing it in your head. How does it feel? How does it sound in your head? Make sure that it works in your head. Make sure it makes sense in your head, in your mind first, before you physically play it. If you do that, odds are you're going to execute much better when it comes time to physically play it. So that's the first of our 2 frameworks, the shifting accents. We're going to come back to this in each step today. So we've got that. Now our second framework, our second exercise, is we're going to play a specific rhythm with our accents. So instead of doing the shifting accents, we're going to actually play a certain rhythm with our accents. And it's this right here. That's also known as the clave rhythm. Bump, 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 bump. You hear it in Latin music a lot, and that kind of like Latin dance music. That's going to be our rhythm. Just for the sake of our example, it could be anything. We could come up with any other rhythm, and I'll definitely encourage you to come up with your own. But that's the one we're going to do starting out. So if right now, if you pause the video, do you remember that rhythm? Can you play it in your head? Can you hear it? Bunt, 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 bunt. If we count it out, it's 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. Bunt, 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 It's a very musical, natural feeling rhythm that it shouldn't be that hard to get the feel of. So once you've got the feel in your head, you know how it sounds. Make sure you can play it like that on the snare. So that's it for step 1. What have we done? We've practiced playing intentional accents in different parts of the beat on the snare, ghosting all the others, and we've practiced playing a specific rhythm on the snare, ghosting all the others. Now, we're not digging into like the nitty-gritty of technique in this lesson since we don't have time, but we do talk about in other lessons here on the channel what your hands are needing to do to go from super loud to super soft and back, to play things like those dynamic contrasts, we're having to do weird things with our hands with the sticks to really control that. And so if you're a total beginner and you're having a hard time just cleanly doing the accents, that's okay. I'll link the lesson below where we talk about that kind of control that we might use for playing ghost notes well. But now let's move on to step 2. So you're going to start to see the application here to the whole alternating hi-hat thing. Obviously, if you're struggling with alternating hi-hat grooves, a fundamental core issue that could be going on is that your singles, alternating singles, simply aren't really solid. And so that's why we did that first. So now, step 2, let's move our singles to the hi-hats. And what we're going to do now is repeat the exact same 2 exercises that we just did on the snare, but we're now going to do them on the hi-hat. But instead of playing the accents on the hi-hat like this, we're going to play the accents on the snare like this. But first, before we do that one, we're going to do the shifting accents again. So we're going to reach down and we're going to hit the snare on the beats, and then we're going to hit on the E's, the ands, and the uhs, just like this. Just like that. Now, what you might run into is kind of some logistical challenges, the hand tangle-up we talked about back at the beginning of crossing under. A lot of times the big holdup is, well, I can, as long as I'm hitting the snare with my right hand as I do this, I'm fine. But as soon as I got to cross the left hand under, it gets weird. That's where you do have to get in the habit of moving the right hand out of the way. So from the overhead cam up here, watch what I'm doing. I'm actually starting to do like a Ringo style swooshing side to side motion here, which allows my right hand to automatically move out of the way. It doesn't have to be dramatic or exaggerated, it can be very subtle. You just want to make sure you don't smack your hand coming down, because that will hurt. I've done this, obviously, and maybe you have too. Make sure you move your right hand out of the way so that the stick can come down. You can see with your eyes the center of the snare, and you've got some extra space there. And of course, the same applies to hitting the uhs. 1 E and If you get too dramatic with it, you'll do what I just did, which was hit the underside of the crash. And so it doesn't have to be dramatic. I'm kind of exaggerating it to show you. But it can end up looking more like this. It's all about motion. You know, in order for things to become effortless on the drums, I mentioned this last week, it's kind of become our theme in a lot of these lessons. We want to practice so well and so deeply that we develop more quality in our playing. We're focusing on quality over quantity so that drumming can become easy for us. We want things to become effortless. How can things become as easy as possible? And a big step toward things being effortless is creating motion that makes things automatic. If we're not automatically moving the right hand out of the way, there's always going to be tangle that happens here. But if we get in this habit of always moving the right hand out of the way, kind of having this ebb and flow in the way we do things, then it becomes a lot more automatic and effortless. It's just like with playing rim shots. This will probably be another upcoming lesson soon. With playing rim shots, they need to be effortless. Like if we're going to play every backbeat as a rim shot, we're going to go. And we want each one to sound the same. We want it to be recordable. We want to sound like a studio drummer playing nice, strong, rock rim shots. If we're going to do that, the motion that our left hand is creating, that our arm is doing to create the stick motion, that's all critical, because if we don't have this motion established, then we're having to think every time we do this. If you've ever wondered, why am I having to think so hard while I'm playing the drums? It's because your brain hasn't fully compartmentalized the steps, the motions, the things that need to all come together and become autopilot so that the thing can become effortless. Part of that is a psychological term, a neuroscience term called chunking, where our brains will put things together so that instead of thinking of a paradiddle as right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, we just say paradiddle and we go. Because if you're having to think right, left, right, it gets all tangled up and you can't go very fast at all. Likewise, if you're having to count while you're playing, same kind of thing, where if you're counting and you're going 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, it's a mess because we're not made to do that. Our brains can't do that. We've got to chunk it all together and know what the thing is and then just play it. And so, hey, so some good stuff we'll talk about in future lessons, but that definitely applies here, where we want this whole thing to become effortless in the way that we play it. So we're still in step 2 here. We want to play the shifting accents on the snare. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and jump to step 2B here, which is really, we want to then get comfortable adding in bass drum quarter notes along with this. I'm going to add it in right now so you have a reference for where the beat is as we do these. But I want you to play along. First, just watch, like mentally play along watching me, and then rewind and come back and actually physically play along. Don't worry about adding in the bass drum just yet. Then rewind again and then add the bass drum in. So basically it'll look like this. 1, 2, ready, go. I'm going to do 2 bars of each this time, just so you've got more time on each version of it. Ready, go. Just like that. So go through and just watch me do it, like mentally play along as you're watching my hands and my foot do it. then physically do just the hands, then physically do hands plus adding in your right foot. And of course, practice it slowly. Sometimes it can be weird because your right foot wants to follow what your right hand is doing. But we want to get comfortable having that 4 on the floor, because so many times there's a 4 on the floor, bass drum, quarter notes underneath whatever's going on here in a lot of these grooves. So we have things like that happening where a lot of times the bass drum's really simple, but it's playing those quarter notes. So we want to get super comfortable and confident doing that. But now remember, we want to do the other exercise too, the other framework of playing that specific rhythm on the snare, also over the bass drum quarter notes. So we want to go like this. So it's kind of experimenting with a couple of variations there, because ultimately what you're going to do, we'll talk a little bit more about this, is sometimes when you're playing accents in a groove like this, you're not necessarily just playing those accents on the snare. You might play them on the hi-hats. You might play open notes. You might find yourself playing things like there's so much feel and just coolness and creativity that can happen just on the hats over a 4 on the floor. We played a song at church recently. Any of you church drummers, if y'all play any Charity Gale stuff, there's a Charity Gale song called Rejoice. And a lot of the song is really fun groove. Go check it out. There's a lot of opportunity for interesting hi-hat accents, like just sloshy hi-hat accents. You can create so much musicality. So much creative opportunity when you can play these accent patterns with your hands over a 4 on the floor on the kick drum. So that's a fundamental core skill that has to happen in order to do these sorts of alternating hi-hat 16th grooves, whether we're hitting the snare or not. If we're hitting the snare, we might be playing the accents on the snare, but what if we're not hitting the snare? We might be playing the accents on closed hats, or we might add in some open hats. It could be a sloshy hi-hat, whatever it might be, or we could be mixing it all together and going. So now I did some random stuff there, but I kind of settled into a kind of like our clave rhythm there. How cool would it be to be able to play an accent pattern like that on the hats, but mixing in the backbeat? All that we're doing is so that's why it's so important to practice this on top of the foot quarter notes, because that way it's like, oh, hey, this is feeling like a groove. This is feeling really fun. So you can see how much creative opportunity there is here, just being able to do these accents in different places over the kick drum quarter notes, which is so much fun. And hey, for you church drummers, this is critical because there's so much stuff we do in the world of church drumming on the toms. You know, maybe it's like in the Charity Gale song Rejoice, where there's a lot of, you know, alternating hi-hat 16ths. Maybe we're reaching over to some toms, but there's also plenty of grooves where you might be playing. There's that kind of feel. Hey, it's singles over kick drum quarter notes. If you can play different accent patterns with your singles over quarter notes on the kick, your improvisation capabilities will have no limit. So that's really fun. Definitely grab onto that, practice that. But hey, there's one thing we haven't done yet. We've done a step 1, we've done a step 2, we've done our 2 types of exercises, the shifting accents, the rhythm we've applied with the accents, but we actually have a 3rd step here. This is where it gets a little more challenging, but this is fun too. Step 3, repeat everything we've done with the bass drum. So doing the shifting accents on the bass drum, doing that rhythm on the bass drum, and then seeing what we can do with that. So here's what we mean. So moving the hands to the hi-hat, just playing closed, right, left, right, left. First we can play beats on the kick, on the beats, and then we can shift to the E's, ands, and then uhs. And so on. The challenge here is generally locking the bass drum right foot with the hi-hat left hand whenever you do the E's or the uhs. So isolate that if it's a trouble spot. And practice just doing left hand and right foot together, because that might be something funky that trips you up. Odds are there's going to be flamming. The foot might want to rush. The left foot might want to rush. Or left hand might want to rush. I don't know. It's different for everybody, but focus on locking that in. And then, so watch me do it again. Mentally play along while I do it, and then physically play with me. So here we go. We'll do each variation 2 bars. 1, 2, ready, go. And then we're back to the beats. Now, what's the next thing we do? We play our clave rhythm from every previous step on the bass drum as well. So that means going just like that. So we're playing that same rhythm that we had done as accent patterns on the hands, but now we're doing that on the bass drum in the midst of our alternating 16ths here. Now, this is where it gets interesting, if it's not interesting enough already. Step 3B, so what we can do here is add snare backbeats. So now this feels like a groove. Feels like a pretty normal groove, right? We can even remove the kick for that last snare hit on 4, so we're not doing them together. Personal preference. So now we're ready for our bonus step of mix things up to create your own syncopated grooves. So this is where the ball's in your court. You got to take this out for a spin, test some of these things out. You've now played these different accent patterns on the hats, on the snare, over a 4 on the floor kick. You've done some syncopated 4 on the floor kick with snare on 2 and 4. How could you mix things up a little bit and kind of just mix all that together? What if we did... challenge yourself to see what's possible. You know, maybe that's beyond your technical limit right now. Maybe that's a mess. I probably didn't even play the same thing twice. The point isn't like to come up with something note for note and then do the exact thing. The point is to like make up something interesting here. If you don't know where to start, try doing a paradiddle pattern like this. But using the context of these alternating singles to play it so that it looks like this. That'll force you to do some weird mixing of things. Beyond that, just listen to these songs that have this sort of thing. Any favorite song that has patterns like this, and think about, hey, can I start incorporating this? Remember, it's just alternating singles. And then if you want to mix in the kick drum syncopation, try to just do some of that, like just focus your energy down there and then start to mix in some of the snare. I promise that these abilities will come. You've got the foundation in place now to start experimenting with this. This didn't happen for me overnight. It's not going to happen for you overnight either. It's going to require some patience, but you have to challenge yourself to be creative. You have to challenge yourself to improvise. Otherwise, it isn't just going to fall into your lap. You're not going to suddenly find yourself, oh, wow, I can suddenly play all this cool stuff because I did these exercises Steven taught me. You probably have to push yourself toward that creativity, toward that improvisation, but practice doing that. Come up with a kick snare pattern, boom, and then see, okay, can I play this with alternating 16ths? Obviously, it makes it harder, but practice doing it, and then as you get comfortable with that, you can start mixing in some of those accents to the hi-hat, and that's where you end up with really cool, creative sounding things that sound really difficult, but that also sound really musical. So have a lot of fun with this. Stay patient with it. Know that it's a step-by-step process, but as you master these steps and get comfortable with them, you can start pushing yourself to create and improvise and no longer be limited by tangled up hands and inability to hit the snare when you want to hit it. Hopefully now you've got more intention, more authority over what you're doing here, and even more creativity. So, hey, question for you as you go. What song can you think of that has an alternating hi-hat 16th groove like we've been talking about? One that's always floating in the back of my head is Sunday Bloody Sunday by U2. It's got a lot of that. There's definitely a lot of other ones out there, but that's a big one. So name whatever song you can think of. Church Drummers, This Is Amazing Grace by Phil Wickham. That was a classic staple of modern worship music that came out over a decade ago, actually, where that whole song, that kind of groove all throughout that song. And so that was one of the first songs I remember playing in church that had a lot of that kind of in that tempo range. It came out around 2013, I think. So that's definitely one. Any song you can think of, name it in the comments. Have a lot of fun practicing this. Know that, as always, you can do this. Stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.